So, in this new NBA full of parity, that leads to a lot of teams having a lot of hope, and with a lot of hope comes a lot of disappointment. If we just examine last year, we had 3 teams go home in the first round that really had championship aspirations. Milwaukee, Philly, and Phoenix. Now, I know injuries played a big factor, and I was never a believer in Phoenix, but it's easy to forget majority of people were picking them over Minnesota before that series started. But those 3 teams were definitely going into the playoffs feeling like they had a shot. And beyond those 3 teams, you have the Warriors, who didn't even make the playoffs. You have the Lakers, you have the Pelicans going home in the first round. Those teams really felt like they were poised to make a run. Whether you believe it or not, those teams really believe that. And that's not to mention all the teams that are gonna get better. So with that many disappointed teams, there's bound to be a shakeup brewing. So who do I think the next superstar to be traded will be? It's a subjective word, superstar, right? Because I wouldn't say Brandon Ingram or Larry Markkinen or even Julius Randle are superstars. I wouldn't. Pascal Siakam last year, I wouldn't say that's a superstar. Paul George is like on the fence, you know, a 28-year-old Paul George for sure, but 34-year-old Paul George, is he still considered a superstar? I don't really know. So that word is extremely subjective, and we'll tackle that as we go along. But before we get to players that I feel like might be moved, let's talk about the few players that are like for sure not being moved. Let's give it a 3-year buffer. These players, I would be shocked if they're moved in the next 3 years, and that list is not very long. I would go Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, Shea, Luka, Anthony Edwards, and I would throw in John Morant, unless he does something stupid again, but John Morant, and I'd say Jalen Brunson. And we'll throw in Steph Curry, unless the Warriors just completely decide they're not trying to win. Steph Curry will be there. But I would say those are the 8. Am I missing somebody? Wemby, of course. Paolo, of course. I'm not really talking about those guys, the super young guys, but the guys that have been established. I think it's just those 8. And there's probably 2 guys you feel like are missing from that list, being Giannis and Embiid, and we'll get back to them in a second. But maybe you feel like Jaylen Brown should be on here. Maybe you feel like Bam Adebayo randomly should be on here. Maybe you feel like LeBron and AD, although I don't see how you could say that. Like, I don't think anybody would be surprised if LeBron and AD were gone in 2 years. Maybe I'm tripping on that, but I don't feel like most people would be surprised by that. But Giannis and Embiid, the 2 guys with maybe the most pressure on them in the NBA right now. The Eastern Conference was supposed to be running through those 2 guys, and all of a sudden the Celtics and the Heat appear. Now you have the Knicks here. And who knows with the Pacers and the Magic, who knows what's going to happen with those teams, right? But it was supposed to be Giannis and Embiid at the top of the conference, and now those guys are under an immense amount of pressure. And we could tackle Giannis first, and Giannis already has the ring, I guess, so it's not too much pressure, but it's a lot of pressure on the Bucks organization, let's put it that way. More pressure on the Bucks than on Giannis, I guess, but this team is very old, and very small on the perimeter. It's hard to be old and small. I know they have Giannis, they have Brook, they have Bobby, but as far as their perimeter defenders, they're pretty small. And if they have another disappointing end to the year, although the last 2 years have been on Giannis being hurt, but you know, we could talk about that at a later date. But if they have another disappointing finish to the year, and Dame doesn't look like a superstar anymore, and Chris Middleton looks old, and Brook Lopez looks old, and they don't really have any young talent up and coming, you could see Giannis taking a look around and saying, you know what, this is not the place for me if I want to win again. They don't really have a lot of avenues to get better unless they're trading Dame or Middleton, and I'm not sure what you're getting from Middleton at this point, but maybe they could trade Dame for, like, you know, some 3 good role players or something like that. You know, I'm just throwing things out there because this is their team, and if they're not getting better, if anything, it looks like they would be getting worse, right? Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, even Giannis is getting older, Dame older. Like, it's not a bright future for this team besides Giannis. And I could see him, again, taking that look around and saying, you know what, maybe I should go play elsewhere. The case for Embiid is a little bit different, right? Because I feel like this team, on paper, is the 2nd best team in the NBA, on paper. But I still don't believe in this team because, one, playoff Joel Embiid is a much less efficient, much less dominant scorer, even though this last playoff run was probably his best playoff series statistically. Either that one or the Hawks series. You guys know the infamous Ben Simmons moment. Even though Joel Embiid fell apart in most of the 4th quarters of that series, he still had a pretty damn good series. I'll give him that. You know, didn't close it out though. But also don't really trust Paul George in the playoffs. I'm a big Paul George fan, but to say I trust him, I can't do that. To say it's a little bit unfair to criticism he gets in the playoffs, I can give you that. But to say you wholeheartedly trust him, I can't say that. So that, and maybe more importantly, is I don't trust the leadership of this team. And that's not even what this video is about, but I'm telling you guys why Embiid might be gone, right? It's all correlated. Just stick with me. I don't trust the leadership of this team, and Paul George is one thing. Paul George is just not a leader, and that's fine. That's fine. That's why he's a number 2. That's why he's accepted being a number 2. And in this situation, probably a number 3. But Paul George is not a leader, that's fine. Joel Embiid is not really a leader either, and in a different way, in a more problematic way. When have we ever seen or heard Joel Embiid be accountable? So even though I feel like this team is perfectly built around him with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, this team is perfectly built for Joel Embiid to go out there and be the best player in the NBA and lead them to the promised land. But if it doesn't work, do we really think Joel Embiid's gonna, say, you know what, I was the one that needed to get better? Or is he gonna say, man, this team just isn't good enough? Because I feel like it's gonna be the latter. I'm not saying he's gonna demand a trade on the spot, but I feel like if this scenario doesn't work out the way it should, and it could be a different reason, right? It could be Paul George gets hurt. It could be Joel Embiid gets hurt. But whatever the reason is, I feel like Joel Embiid will not be accountable for it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's gonna grow as a leader and it won't be a problem. But believing in the leadership of Paul George and Joel Embiid and believing in both those guys to stay healthy, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's gonna work out. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't feel like it's gonna work out. And if it doesn't work out, again, Joel Embiid is not gonna say it didn't work out because I wasn't good enough. So he might have wandering eyes in that situation. But in reality, neither of these guys should be the number 1 option. Now, we already kinda had the superstar versus star discussion. I brought up Damian Lillard. I feel like Dame should be very high on the list, but Dame just got traded. I don't really want to talk about Dame, but Dame, this version of Dame might be on the borderline. Is he a star or a superstar? Who knows? He could be moved very soon. The real answer here is Trae Young, and I'm a bigger believer in Trae Young than other people, I guess. I'm not this Trae Young stan either. I believe that Trae Young is a superstar, and with the right talent around him, we will see that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that, and there's really no point in talking about Trae Young again right now. He's been in trade rumors for the last 2 years. Hasn't happened yet. They decided they're gonna go all in with Trae at least for this next year, and I feel like they made the right decision. What about Jimmy Butler? We had the Pat Riley press conference. We had Jimmy Butler not getting extended, but in reality, what team is looking to give a 34-year-old Jimmy Butler $50 million a year? I don't feel like there's that many teams out there. This is gonna sound crazy, but I could envision like the Denver Nuggets doing it with a trade deal around Michael Porter Jr. and a couple picks. Maybe I could see that happening, but not likely, right? The only other team would be maybe Cleveland and a Darius Garland deal if Cleveland flames out this year. But again, not likely. I think it's more than likely Jimmy Butler is going to remain with Miami for at least the next 3 years, and that's what we're talking about. Now, similar to Damian Lillard, I don't really want to talk about this guy because he was just moved, but that is Kevin Durant. I feel like you have to bring him up, but I don't really want to focus on KD again, and KD would be, 36, 37 if he were to get moved in the next 3 years. And he probably will be moved in this 3-year window we're talking about because he's going to be a free agent in 2 years, and either he walks in free agency or he gets traded on the last year of his deal because they want to get something for him. But I actually want to talk about Kevin Durant's teammate, and this was the main reason I wanted to make this video. And I'm very bold of me to leave it until 9 minutes in the video when no one's probably watching at this point, but I wanted to talk about Devin Booker because I feel like he is the player that teams very, very low-key have on their radar because, like me, they do not believe in this Phoenix Suns situation. Like I mentioned, Kevin Durant has this upcoming year and then 1 more year on his deal. Is Kevin Durant at 37 years old really just going to be on an expiring deal on the Phoenix Suns? Is that a tenable situation? And whatever they get in return would not be the same as what Brooklyn got for Kevin Durant. Bradley Beal has a $57 million player option the year after KD's contract expires. Nobody's taking that deal. Devin Booker is the youngest of the 3, has the longest contract, and would yield Phoenix the biggest return. 3 years from now, Devin Booker will be 30, in the middle of his prime, with presumably Kevin Durant gone in free agency and Bradley Beal making $57 million to play the same position. What are we really doing here? They have no real avenues to improve besides the draft, and I love Ryan Dunn, but we gotta wait and see. Tyus Jones, everybody loves Tyus Jones, but I just don't believe in this team. In a league that's trending bigger and more physical, they have Kevin Durant as their only real power forward. And if you watch last year's playoffs, and I actually made a video about this like midway through the playoffs, right? And the power forward position was the standout position to me because it was like a reminder of old school basketball when the power forward was extremely important. And you had guys like Cat going against KD, out physicaling KD and winning in the margins against KD. You had Cat and Aaron Gordon, you had that battle. You had Pascal Siakam and Josh Hart in that battle, right? Jason Tatum being a forward, being a help defender, competing on the boards. Are you really gonna ask KD to be doing all of that at age 36? I just don't believe in this team. And if this team flails out again, I think a 29-year-old Devin Booker will want out. He'll see Kevin Durant on an expiring deal. He'll see Bradley Beal with 2 more years left on his contract to play the same position as him. And he'll say, what are we actually doing here? And the thing about Devin Booker is every team wants Devin Booker. Devin Booker fits anywhere with any star. If it turns out the Knicks aren't good enough, they can pivot to Devin Booker. Devin Booker would fit next to Jalen Brunson more than Donovan Mitchell would fit next to Jalen Brunson. Miami, I could see him with Bam Adebayo. If the Warriors get desperate, I could see him in Golden State next to Steph Curry and kind of in that Klay Thompson role, but a different, much better version of it, right? You got teams that would want Devin Booker as the number 1 option, number 2 option, and number 3 option. So to me, Devin Booker is the name to look out for. Now I'm kind of cheating because Kevin Durant will more than likely be gone before Devin Booker makes that decision. So it's really KD, but I'm not gonna say KD again. I'm gonna say Devin Booker will be the next quote unquote superstar moved. But let me know in the comments down below who you think it might be. Let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you guys so much for all the recent support on the videos. Hopefully we can keep the momentum going. The goal is to hit 5K before the start of next NBA season. I think we can do it. So yeah, please like the video, please comment on the video, and most importantly, please subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.